If you're currently renting or planning to sign a new lease soon, there's a high chance you're calculating how much rent you can afford in the wrong way. Most people rely on common advice without ever questioning whether it truly fits their financial situation. The number they arrive at feels safe and reasonable, but over time it slowly creates pressure on their finances. Rent is usually the biggest monthly expense, and when it's miscalculated, it affects everything else: your savings, your lifestyle, and your peace of mind. Locking yourself into a lease based on the wrong number doesn't just create short-term discomfort. It can lead to long-term financial stress that builds month after month. Why people get rent wrong in the first place? The main reason people miscalculate rent affordability is because they depend on simple rules that are easy to follow but not accurate. These rules are everywhere, from online calculators to casual advice from friends and even expectations set by landlords. They give quick answers, but they don't reflect real life. Everyone's financial situation is different, with different expenses, responsibilities, and goals. When you reduce all of that complexity into a single percentage, you ignore the details that actually matter. This is where the problem starts, because your financial decisions should be based on your real numbers, not a general guideline designed for convenience. The reality behind the 30% rule. The most commonly used guideline is the 30% rule, which suggests that you should spend no more than 30% of your income on rent. At first glance, it seems logical and responsible. You take your income, calculate 30%, and assume that's what you can safely afford. However, this rule was never designed for personal financial planning in modern life. It originated as a basic guideline for housing programs, not as a personalized budgeting tool. Over time, it became widely accepted, even though it doesn't account for how complex individual finances have become. Relying on it today can create a false sense of security because it ignores key factors that directly impact your ability to pay rent comfortably. The major problems hidden in this rule. One of the biggest issues with the 30% rule is that it ignores fixed expenses. To individuals with the same income can have completely different financial obligations. One might have loan payments, insurance costs, and family responsibilities, while the other has minimal expenses. Despite this, the rule assumes they can afford the same rent, which simply isn't realistic. Another major flaw is that it is based on gross income rather than take-home pay. The money you actually receive after taxes is what matters, not the total amount you earn on paper. When you base your rent on gross income, you are effectively budgeting with money that you never truly have access to, which creates a gap between your expectations and your reality. How this mistake turns into financial stress. At first, everything may feel manageable. You move into your new place, set up your routine, and adjust to the payments. But over time, the pressure starts to show. Your savings grow more slowly than expected, and small expenses begin to feel heavier. Unexpected costs become difficult to handle, and you may find yourself relying on credit just to stay balanced. This is how financial stress builds gradually. It's not caused by one major mistake, but by a consistent imbalance in your budget. When rent takes up more space than it should, it limits your flexibility and reduces your ability to respond to life's uncertainties. A more realistic way to think about rent, instead of relying on a fixed percentage like 30%, a more effective approach is to look at your entire financial situation. This means focusing on your actual take-home income and understanding your essential monthly expenses. Over time, financial experts have recognized that rising living costs have made older budgeting rules outdated. In many cases, fixed expenses now take up closer to 60% of a person's take-home income. These include necessities like food, transportation, insurance, and other non-negotiable costs. Accepting this reality allows you to create a budget that reflects modern financial conditions rather than outdated assumptions. The method that actually works in real life. A practical way to calculate your rent affordability is to start with your take-home income, the money that actually reaches your bank account. From there, Determine 60% of that amount as your total limit for fixed expenses. Next, subtract all your existing monthly costs except rent. What remains is the amount you can realistically afford to spend on housing. This method works because it is based on your real financial situation rather than a general rule. It adjusts to your lifestyle, your obligations, and your income, giving you a clearer and more accurate picture of what you can afford. The eye-opening reality check. When people use this method, the result is often surprising. In many cases, the actual affordable rent is much lower than what the 30% rule suggests. While this can feel disappointing at first, it is also a moment of clarity. It shows you the truth about your financial limits and helps you avoid future stress. Instead of stretching your budget to match expectations, you begin to make decisions that protect your financial stability. This shift in thinking can make a significant difference over time. The smart way to handle a lower budget. If your real rent budget turns out to be lower than expected, the most effective solution is to reduce the burden by sharing costs. Living with a roommate or partner can significantly lower your rent and create more room in your budget. This approach is not a compromise, but a strategic decision that allows you to maintain financial balance while still meeting your housing needs. The goal is not just to afford rent, but to do so in a way that supports your long-term financial health. Final thought on financial control. Rent affordability is not about following a universal rule or copying what others are doing. It's about understanding your own financial situation and making decisions based on reality. The difference between financial stress and financial stability often comes down to how accurately you calculate your biggest expense. When you replace assumptions with real numbers, you gain control over your finances and create a foundation for long-term security.